My name is Silas Moreau. I have 32 years and I live in Sacramento, California. I work as radiology technician at a local hospital almost a decade ago. Since graduating, I have set a single goal: buy my own house. I worked long hours, took on extra shifts, gave up vacations and parties, and lived modestly while everyone around me seemed to splurge. But the worst of all was that, at the end of all these years of effort, what took away that dream from me? It wasn't the real estate market or a medical emergency, but my own family, and not just any family member. My younger brother, Ryan, my parents' favorite, since forever. The eternal unfulfilled talent, the dreamer who never left his place, but who everyone swore he had potential. The story I'm going to tell is not just about money, it's about broken trust, emotional manipulation, and ultimately, release. But at first, everything seemed normal, even beautiful. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I arrived at my parents' house for dinner. They always insisted that I go at least once a week, and I, trying to maintain some connection despite the emotional exhaustion, accepted. The surprise came as soon as I parked my car, a brand new black Camaro, at the entrance. The windows reflected the sunset like polished mirrors, and the roar of the engine, even when it was turned off, seemed to mock me. The first thing I thought was, who bought this machine? The second was, it can only be Ryan's. And when he came out of the garage with that smile of someone who had just won the lottery, the answer was confirmed without a single word being said. "Enjoying the new toy?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Oh, little brother, you have no idea. This beauty was practically a gift. The seller made me an offer I couldn't refuse," he replied, laughing. I entered the house with a knot in my stomach. The car could have been a gift, but someone paid for it. And by the way he avoided my direct gaze, something was wrong. Very wrong. During dinner, my mother praised me for always helping the family, mentioning how I was reliable, responsible, an example. All of this with a nervous smile and a look away from mine. My father just said, "We knew you would understand." And then, as if it were no big deal, Ryan blurted out, "Ah, Silas, by the way, thank you for securing the financing for me. Without your joint account back there, you never would have made it. It was Mom's idea. Genius, right?" It was like being punched. I swallowed hard. "What do you mean, guarantee financing?" I asked, trying not to scream. My mother stepped forward like someone trying to calm a bomb about to explode. "It's just, well, we used that account you opened when you started working. It was still active, so we put it in as a guarantee. You hardly used it anyway." "I barely used it?" My voice shook. "That's where the money for the down payment on my house was. $68,000, Mother. My reserve fund. Everything I gathered." Silence fell like fresh concrete onto the table. My father tried to justify, "Son, it was just a loan. Ryan needs mobility now that he's trying a new project with some friends in Los Angeles. It's an important phase in his life. You took my money without asking, without warning, and they used me as a guarantor on a sports car loan." I was already standing, my heart hammering in my chest. Ryan snorted, throwing up his hands. "Dude, there's no need to dramatize. You are the guy with savings, with discipline. You'll recover that in a few months. Relax, relax." I wanted to laugh, scream, disappear. This wasn't just about money. It was about once again being treated as the brother who can handle everything, the responsible guy who can carry the world on his shoulders. Since I was 14 years old, I washed the dishes alone, helped Ryan with the chores, while my parents said, "He is more sensitive. Don't pressure him." When my father broke his leg and became unemployed, guess who took over part of the household bills with his intern salary? And now, they had emptied my account to pay for the whim of a spoiled 28-year-old adult with an incomplete degree and a history of quitting jobs like changing his t-shirt. But at that moment, I took a deep breath. I looked into the eyes of the three and said, "I want you to know that it won't stay like this. I'll sort it out. My way." My mother tried to hold my arm. "Silas, there's no need to be so radical. We are family." I released his touch gently but firmly. "So it is, family. Too bad you only remember this when it's convenient." I left the house without looking back. Inside my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I made the first of many calls that would change everything. Not to the police, not yet. I called Hannah, a close friend who worked as a legal consultant at a small law firm. "Hi, hon, I need some help. Something happened to my bank account, and there is fraud in the mix." She listened to my story in silence, and at the end said, "Silas, this is serious, and if your name is on the financing contract, you could be in legal trouble. Meet me tomorrow morning. Let's turn everything over." I hung up the phone with a heavy heart, but feeling the first spark of something new. Action. I didn't know exactly what would happen, but for the first time in many years, I would stop accepting everything silently. That betrayal had been the trigger. That night I barely slept. The sound of the Camaro's engine seemed to echo in my head, mocking me. I tossed and turned in bed, trying to understand how someone who saw me sacrifice so much could justify such a blatant theft. And yes, that was it, a robbery, only legally camouflaged as a family loan. In the morning, I met Hannah at a discreet cafe in the city center. She already had her notebook open, a folder of documents on the table, and an expression somewhere between concern and fury. "Silas, I pulled the records from the old account. Do you remember the authorization you gave your father to use as co-owner when you started working?" she asked. "Yes, I thought it was just to make their lives easier at that time. They said they would never move anything without telling me." Hannah snorted, turning the screen toward me. "Well, they moved, and more than once. Small withdrawals in the last 2 years. But in recent weeks, 2 large withdrawals, one for $20,000, the other for $48,000. Everything going straight to Ryan's account or covering the value of the car. I felt my stomach turn. The trust I had in that account was total. I never thought about closing or separating completely because, deep down, I still believed that my family respected me. "And there's more," she continued. "The car financing contract, you not only appear as a guarantor, but also co-signer. This means you could be charged in court if Ryan doesn't pay. I never signed that. Never. I believe in you. And from the dates, this was done while you were on duty on a trip with hospital staff in Arizona. Remember?" I remembered. We had gone for training with new radiological equipment, and I spent 3 days without access to a bank or cell phone. They waited for this moment. They planned everything. "That's forgery, Silas. This is a crime," she said. "I know, but they are my parents and my brother, and they committed fraud. Feelings aside, the law does not forgive this kind of thing, and if you don't act now, it could ruin you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of decision forming. I could bury everything. Pretend it didn't happen. Try to renegotiate. Or I could do what I've never done before. Put me first. "What if I want to sue? Report?" I asked. "We start with a police report for fraudulent misrepresentation and misuse of documents. Then we ask for formal banking access, pull physical copies with signature, and if there is a forgery, we open a criminal and civil case." "See it? And the car? If you want and prove that you didn't sign anything, the property can be collected in court. Then let's do this," she nodded, pulling a new folder from her bag. "It's going to hurt, Silas, but it will hurt a lot more if you let it continue. They need to understand that you are no longer the scapegoat." That afternoon, returning home, my head was spinning. I spent my life swallowing injustices. The Christmas when I got a shirt while Ryan got a video game. The time I used my summer savings to pay off their rent debt. The day my mom cried because she couldn't give Ryan a graduation present. And I paid for it. All of this seemed far away, but now it came back like a horror movie playing too quickly. And then Ryan's first message came. "Bro, why are you messing with the banks? Mom is freaking out here. Is this serious? We're going to talk, right?" Then another. "Silas, Dad is nervous. Mom is crying, and you're going to destroy the family because of paperwork?" And one more. "You're not well. We should talk calmly. There's no need to make this a scandal." The scandal, in fact, already existed. What I was doing was just shining the light on him. I didn't answer any. Instead, I started gathering everything. Statements, contracts, screenshots of messages, even an email from my father in which he made a joke about using Silas's money for Ryan's investment. Deep down, he already said what he intended to do. but with a joking tone, the guilty party's favorite disguise. The next day I received a call from the bank manager. "Mr. Moreau, we learned that there is a dispute over the signature on the financing contract. We need you to come to the agency to formally clarify." I went, with Hannah by my side. The manager, visibly uncomfortable, presented the papers. The signature was similar, very similar, but it wasn't mine. There were small errors. The S pulled too far, the slope incorrect. Hannah pointed everything out. "That's not my client's signature," he said firmly, "and we have proof that he was out of town during that period." "This is very serious," the manager replied. "If it is confirmed, we will have to notify the authorities." "That's exactly what we want, Isai," I added. In the following days, what was indignation turned to fury on their part. They started calling me dozens of times a day. My parents went to the hospital where I work. They had to be taken away by security. Ryan waited for me at the door of my house, calling me selfish, a traitor, and insensitive. But something in me had already changed. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. For the first time, I saw everything as it really was, a whole life built on top of my silence. And I was done with him. After we left the bank branch, Hannah looked at me with a serious face. She had already dealt with several fraud cases, but there was something about this one that bothered her deeply. Maybe it was the fantasy that everything had been done by those who were supposed to protect me. Maybe it was seeing someone as controlled as me about to fall apart. Or maybe it was the simple fact that I still called them my family, even after everything. In the car, the cell phone didn't stop. Missed messages and calls from known, unknown blocked numbers. Even my mother's work number appeared there. They were beginning to despair. Hannah suggested I change my number, but I decided to keep it. Every message was proof. When I got home, I found an envelope stuffed under my door. Letterhead from an automotive financing company. It was a warning, late car payment, and if it was not paid within the next 5 days, the vehicle would be collected. And as a co-signer, I could also be sued. And there was the irony. The car Ryan bought with my money and falsely signing my name, he wasn't even paying. I sat on the couch and stared at that paper for a few minutes. His arrogance was so absurd it became comical. The phone rang again. It was my Aunt Claire. I couldn't resist and answered. "Silas, my dear, what is this story? Your mother is devastated. Your father had to take tranquilizers. Ryan called me crying." "Crying, Silas? He never does that." "Then maybe it's time for him to grow up," I replied calmly. "But you were always so close. You always took care of him. And that's the problem, Aunt, always me. Since he fell off his bike, and they said it was my fault for not warning him the hill was steep. Since he was kicked out of his first college, and they made up that he was too pressured because he was the youngest. Since I took out his invoices without knowing it. And now, a forged financing with my name." There was silence on the other end of the line, then a sigh. "But they are your parents, Silas, your blood. Blood does not erase crime." I hung up before she could say anything else. The next morning, Hannah sent me a message. "What we needed has arrived. It has an expert signature, and the consequences will start now." We went to the registry office and filed a request to formally open a case for misrepresentation and fraud. And that same day, she filed a legal request to blocking of financed assets, that is, the car. The court authorized it in record time. Within 48 hours, the item could be collected. Ryan, of course, found out the same day. Why they had access to everything. One of the biggest mistakes of my life was not closing those joint accounts sooner. I was too trusting. I believed that keeping the peace was more important than protecting myself. But that has changed. The next night at 2 a.m., I received a call. It was my father. I answered on impulse. "Son," his voice was hoarse, almost slurred. "Just listen, okay? Just listen." I was silent. "I made a mistake. We made a mistake. I should have told you. I should have asked. But it all happened very quickly. We thought you would understand, as you always did." As I was always forced to understand, right? We were afraid that Ryan, that he hesitated, that he would go into depression again. After the last interview he missed, he was talking nonsense. And your mother freaked out. She thought that if he had something that gave hope, a luxury car, he said it would be the turning point in his life. That would be motivation. I didn't think I would hurt you like that. What you did isn't just hurtful. It's a crime, Dad. You signed my name, took my money, hid everything. And you still think this can be resolved with an "I'm sorry"? We will pay. It will find a way. You don't need to involve the police. I'm already involved, and I'm not going back. The silence on the other side was long. Then he hung up. Hannah called me the next morning. There was a hurried tone in his voice. Lola, officers will collect the car today. Do you want to be there? I thought for a second. I wanted? Was this revenge or justice? I want it, I replied. I went to my parents' house. When I arrived, the car was still in the driveway, shining as always. Ryan was on the sidewalk, cell phone in hand, walking in circles. When he saw me, he came towards me like a hurricane. Have you gone crazy? Are you really going to let them take my car? Your car? With my money? With my signature? That's right. I was going to pay. I was just waiting for the money to come up for the project with the people in San Diego. You were always the right one. I thought I wouldn't even miss it. And that's why you thought you could rob me? This is not theft, it's family. Before he could respond, the tow truck turned the corner. Ryan went pale. My mother ran out of the house, hair disheveled, eyes sunken. Silas, please. This is humiliation. The neighbors will see. They should have thought of that before. The bank officer calmly got out of the truck. He asked for the documents, which Hannah had sent by email. And then, without saying another word, he began to arrest the car. My mother started crying. Ryan ran to the car, tried to stop it. The officer did not hesitate. If you touch the equipment, I'll call the police. It's all within the law. Ryan kicked the ground, screamed. I watched everything in silence. Inside me, there was no joy. There was justice. And the certainty that this was just the beginning. That night, after the car was taken away, I returned to my apartment in complete silence. The sound of the squeak still echoed in my head, as did the look in my mother's eyes, a mixture of despair and shame. But I didn't regret it for a second. For the first time in years, I was setting limits, and even if it hurt, it was necessary. Hannah called me as soon as I entered the house. Silas, are you okay? Strangely, yes. Tired, but at peace, as if I had come out of a years-long trance. I understand, but hold on tight, because more is coming. Remember that old credit card your dad used? The one from the electronics store? That's it. I just confirmed with the bank. You are still responsible for it? And surprise, it was reactivated 7 months ago without your knowledge. The balance is almost $12,000. Purchases made by Ryan and his mother, including, there's even payment for tickets to Vegas. Ridi Nervoso. Tickets? Were they literally using my identity to travel? Yes, and that can configure crime federal, as it involves the use of personal data for interstate transactions. Let's add this to the report. I sat down at the kitchen table and began to manually list every abuse I had ever noticed. Unclosed joint accounts, used cards, loans in my name, forged signatures. It was like putting together a puzzle that I didn't know was incomplete. And with each piece placed, an entire story of abuse and manipulation was revealed. The next day, I took everything to the police station. I was attended by a detective called Marcia Bennett, a woman with firm eyes and direct speech. As soon as she saw the documents Hannah prepared, she didn't hesitate. Mr. Moreau, this is more than enough to launch a formal investigation. Can I be honest? Absent. Cases like this are more common than you might think, but few make it this far. Most victims give up because family ties are involved. But what your family did, there's nothing familiar about it. It's all criminal. She started filling out the papers. The sound of the keyboard filled the room like a war drum. It was official now. My family would be investigated. When I returned home, I found Bryce, my best friend since high school, waiting for me at the door with a grocery bag. I bought real food. You'll end up passing out from living on coffee and anger, he said, entering without ceremony. You're the definition of an inconvenient friend, you know that? And you are stubborn. You should have called me sooner, but I'm here now. As we prepared an impromptu dinner, I told him everything that had happened. Bryce listened in silence, his face becoming increasingly tense. Dude, I always knew your family abused you emotionally, but this is surreal. And you know what's worse? I said with a tight voice. I still feel guilty. He stopped stirring the pot and looked at me. Silas, they robbed you. They lied. They manipulated. They used their kindness as a shield. Feeling guilty now is like the victim apologizing for being robbed. I know, but the childish part of me still hopes they will notice. May they repent. They won't, and if they go, let it be in front of a judge. After dinner, Bryce pulled out his laptop, and we started going through old emails and bank notifications. And then he found something that chilled me inside. Silas has a monthly transfer of $210 going from your account to an institution called Bridgewell Academy. This has been happening for 6 years. Do you know what this is? Francie each. Bridgewell? Wait, it was the private school where Ryan went to his senior year of high school. But I thought they had given him a full scholarship. They didn't. You are paying. I rolled my eyes, feeling the blood drain from my face. I opened the old account, the one my mother insisted I keep active just in case. And there it was, an automatic debit authorization activated by her with my old password. Every month for 6 years, I was paying off a debt I didn't even know existed. Bryce, I've been getting robbed for almost a decade. He just shook his head in disbelief. This is much bigger than a car. It's a lifetime, man. I picked up the phone and sent Hannah a short message. We just found more proof. It's constant. It's premeditated. It's not an impulse. It's a scheme. He responded quickly. We're going to include it in the investigation. This will change the tone of the investigation. It's no longer just a family affair. It's becoming a long-term operation. I stared at my cell phone for a while. I couldn't shake the feeling that my childhood, adolescence, and even my adult life had been a construction based on exploration. And what hurt me most was that I only realized it too late. The building's buzzer rang. I looked at the monitor. My mom and Ryan. From the outside, they looked small and desperate. Ryan pressed the button repeatedly. My mother was crying, mumbling something to the camera. Silas, we need to talk. Please. We love you. We made mistakes, but we are family. Bryce came to the door, but I was already heading for the intercom. I took a deep breath. Mom, Ryan, are you listening to me? Yes. Please, son, let us go up. No, it won't happen. You spent years using me. They lied, they falsified, they stole, and now they want to resolve this with tears at the door. Silas, your father is in bad shape. The pressure is up there, Ryan shouted. If he is sick, he should look for a hospital, the same hospital where I worked for 10 years, paying everyone's bills, while you ruined what was mine. This is unfair, my mother whined. We never wanted to harm you. So why did they continue even after knowing they were harming me? The silence outside lasted for several seconds. Then my mother's voice came out low. Because we knew you weren't going to do anything. I hung up. The truth came from her mouth. They only continued because I let them. 2 days after the intercom confrontation, I received a notice from the court. The process had been formally accepted. My name appeared as an injured party in an investigation for financial fraud, misrepresentation, and identity abuse. The complaint included 3 people, Ryan Moreau, Lucille Moreau, and Richard Moreau. My brother, my mother, and my father. Seeing their names there on official documents provoked a conflicting sensation. Part of me felt justice approaching. The other part still felt grief. I fight for a family that may never have existed in the way I imagined. That same morning, Detective Marcia called me. His voice was firmer than ever. Silas, we got access to the complete history of transactions in joint accounts, and there's much more than we expected. Looks like they opened a business credit card in his name for 4 years, linked to a shell company created by Ryan. The card is already over $27,000 of expenses. Ghost company? Yes. A fictitious CNPJ used to justify purchases such as music equipment, trips, dinners, even renting studios in Los Angeles. But the name on the company contract is yours. I have no words. You have to, Silas. We're going to need your full statement for the judge. Hannah guided me to gather everything I had from my school days. Old contracts, bank records, signed authorizations. I spent 2 days scanning physical and digital folders. And that's how I found something that made me shudder. An email from 2015 from my mother with the title, "Please sign and return." The attachment? A joint credit line opening agreement. At the time, she said it was to make it easier for Ryan to buy a used car, which he would pay for himself. I was too busy those days, and I signed digitally without reading it carefully. This contract was the key to everything. They used that document as a guarantee to move resources in my name for years. My mistake. A mistake they turned into a system for extracting everything I had. The process moved quickly, and their reaction too. Now that they knew they could be formally charged, the tone of the messages changed. They were no longer emotional pleas, they were subtle threats. "You're destroying the family, Silas. This will scar everyone. If this goes ahead, your father could end up in prison. Do you really want that on your resume as a good son? Ryan won't take it. He's already talked about disappearing. Are you going to carry that guilt?" I showed everything to Hannah and Detective Marcia. "They're trying to emotionally blackmail you," Marcia said, deadpan. "Let's add this to the process as an attempt at coercion, and we will ask immediate restrictive measure." The judge accepted the request based on the evidence. From that day on, they could not approach me or contact me by any means. At risk of preventive detention, I was in shock, not because I didn't want it, but because I never thought my life would reach this point. At work, the situation began to become public. A colleague from the hospital called me at breakfast. "Silas, I heard rumors about your family, and truth? Depends on what they said. That you're suing them, that there is fraud in the middle." I sighed. "And truth, but I prefer not to talk about it here." "All good. I just wanted to say that if you need anything, we're with you. You are one of the most dedicated people in the hospital. You don't deserve this." It was the first time I felt that someone understood the weight I was carrying. That night, when I got home, I found a manila envelope on the door. Inside, a handwritten letter. The handwriting was recognizable. My mom. "Silas, you're being cruel. I know you're hurt, but your reaction is disproportionate. We've always done everything with the best interests of the family in mind. You've always been our safe haven. Please give up on this. Let's resolve this internally. The police don't need to get involved." At the end of the page, what hurt me the most: "If you keep going, you'll never have a home to go back to." It was almost poetic. They took away my right to have my own home. And now they were threatening to take away even the idea of belonging somewhere. I took the paper, took a photo, and threw it in the trash. I then forwarded the image to Hannah. She simply replied, "Let's annex it. This only strengthens our case." 2 days later, Bryce showed up with a bottle of wine and his laptop under his arm. "I brought fuel and investigation," he joked. While I was preparing some simple food, he sat at the counter and started typing. "Remember that company I talked about yesterday? The Moreau Creative? The one with the business card?" "Yes." I discovered that it was also used to contract services with real companies, like marketing, image consultancy, space rental, in recording studios, everything paid by card in your name. And guess what? Some of these companies issued invoices. Do you want to know who they were delivered to? For me? No. To Ryan's address in Glendale. He posed as a businessman, using his name as a financier. One of these notes is from a private event, $5,000 for a launch party. Party? Yes, with DJ, photographer, buffet. It was unbelievable. Ryan wasn't just living off me, he built an entire persona around my name. And the most absurd thing was, I never knew. Bryce closed the laptop and looked at me seriously. "This will lead to jail, Silas. There's no way to escape anymore. Absent." It was what I wanted to avoid my entire life. But now, this is exactly what needs to happen. The following week, everything started moving at warp speed. Detective Marcia called me early on a Wednesday before 8 a.m. "Silas, we got the warrant." "Warrant?" "Search and seizure. We will collect devices, physical documents, and electronic records directly from your parents' home and Ryan's apartment. The judge authorized it based on evidence of continuous use of someone else's identity with the intention of fraud. I was silent. As much as I wanted justice, that sounded final. It was as if the door between me and any possibility of reconciliation was being locked with a padlock. "You don't need to be present," she added. "Yeah, it is. But if you want, I can keep you informed in real time." "I want. I'm not running away from it." I stayed at home that day. Bryce stopped by late in the morning with coffee and sandwiches. He knew I probably wouldn't eat anything. We sat on the couch, monitoring our cell phones, waiting for any news. At around 10:47 a.m., Marcia sent me a photo, boxes of files being removed from my parents' house. Later, a short video, Ryan's laptop being seized. He protested, saying that he was an artist and that no one understood his creative process. The video showed my mother in tears, my father with his arms crossed, rigid as a wall, not saying a word. It was all surreal. In the early afternoon, Marcia called me again. We found something important. A notebook from Ryan with bank codes, passwords, values. He had everything organized, Silas. Every withdrawal, every transaction, every plan, with your name as its basis. Are you saying that he documented what he did? As if it were a business plan. Even the estimate of how much it would take to not even miss the values. He studied you as a source of resources. The nausea rose with force. All of this was not carelessness. It was calculation. It was an operation. That same night, social media began to react. Someone, perhaps a neighbor or employee of the locations targeted by the search, had taken photos and posted them in resident groups. All it took was one image of the police car in front of my family's house for the speculation to begin. Moreau house surrounded by police. Does anyone know what happened? They say it's fraud, that the youngest son did it again. How sad. They always seemed like such a normal family. The messages reached me, even if I wasn't looking for them. And then, in the evening, I received the final PR blow, a video on my mother's Facebook, recorded with a trembling voice and rehearsed expression. Hello to all the friends and acquaintances who are sending us worried messages. We are living through a difficult time caused by a family misunderstanding. Our oldest son, Silas, is going through a phase of emotional confusion. He's always been a hard worker, but lately he's been unstable. We ask for respect and understanding, and that you do not judge our family for something so personal. I paused the video. Bryce, sitting next to me, swore. They are trying to turn the tide. They've always done that, I replied. It's the same pattern. When confronted, they victimize themselves, and they paint me as the cold, the ungrateful, the disturbed one. It can't stay like this. It won't. Hannah is already preparing a cool response. The use of my image and name to manipulate public perception can be characterized as attempted obstruction of justice. The next day, I went back to work. I needed some routine, but upon arriving at the hospital, the feeling of being in the spotlight was inevitable. It wasn't accusatory looks, it was compassion, a kind of pity in disguise. During lunch break, my supervisor, Dr. Ahmed, called me into his office. Silas, we are with you. I know you're going through something huge. If you need days off or adjustments, we can talk. Thank you, doctor. But working is keeping me sane. He nodded. Then he hesitated. Just one thing. Your brother. He sent a resume to our rehab facility in San Mateo a few weeks ago. It appeared in the internal system. He used you as a reference. He said you worked together on a research project. I laughed without humor. He doesn't have a degree, and he never worked with me. That's what I suspected. But now, with everything coming to light, I understand the pattern. It was just another forgery, doctor, among dozens. Back at the apartment, I found Hannah at my door. She was holding a folder, and her expression was heavier than ever. Silas, we have to talk. Now. We enter. I sat at the table with Bryce as she opened the folder. Remember that credit authorization you signed in 2015? We found out that your parents refinanced the house using your signature as a guarantee. In 2 distinct moments. Their home is tied to your name as guarantor. Like this? Did they put my signature on refinance documents again? Yes. And from the expertise we commissioned, the signatures are fake. Both. Silence. They no longer had enough credit. You were their only guarantee to continue living the way they lived. And now that the installments are due, the bank is calling. For me? Yes. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. Anna, that's really going to get you arrested, right? She looked at me firmly. Go. And probably not just for Ryan. Your parents can answer for falsification of private documents with the aggravating factor of continuous use. And, if the judge accepts our request, their assets could be blocked until the end of the process. What do you think will happen? Honestly? A conviction. They committed serial crimes for years, and now justice is coming after. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. That was it. My family was officially on the opposite side of the law, and I was the main witness, not for revenge, not out of hate, for survival. The next morning I woke up exhausted, as if I had run an emotional marathon without moving. The first message I saw on my cell phone was from my uncle, my mother's older brother, Tio Harold, which I hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. Silas, I know your mother made a mistake, but think about the consequences. The family will never be the same after this. Is it worth destroying everything? I thought before responding. I wasn't the one destroying something. I was the one who was stopping pretending nothing was broken. I responded briefly but honestly. They destroyed everything when they started signing my name to pay for their lies. Justice is just arriving now. I sent it and blocked contact soon after. I no longer wanted to discuss the obvious. A few hours later, as I was getting ready to leave for work, Detective Marcia called me again in a serious and direct voice. Silas, the situation evolved quickly. His parents and brother were officially called to give evidence tomorrow. You won't need to be present, but it's important that you know this is happening now. Has anything new appeared? Yes. During the inspection of the seized computers, we found personal loan receipts made online using your data. A total value greater than $40,000 transferred directly to accounts associated with Ryan. These transactions have occurred over the past 3 years. Harlow. Online personal loans? How did I never know about this? They were made using your scanned documents and an email account similar to yours. They even kept payments to a minimum so you wouldn't receive late alerts directly, avoiding suspicion. I slowly sat down on the couch, feeling the weight of this information like a rock in my chest. It wasn't just mistakes or opportunism. It was premeditation, calculated, cold, and repeated several times. Marcia, this is bigger than I imagined. Yes, Silas, the prosecution now classifies the case as organized financial fraud, and you are the central victim of a scheme supported by members of your own family. When I hung up, I stood there looking at the emptiness of my living room. Everything around me felt different now. The family photos that still remained on the walls, the souvenirs from family trips. Everything seemed fake, a superficial decoration for a dark reality. I arrived at the hospital with the feeling of carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. My supervisor, Ahmed, immediately noticed my expression and discreetly called me into his office again. Silas, you need a rest. The hospital management became aware of the public investigations involving his family. And honestly, we think it would be good for you to take a few days off. Do you think this is harming the hospital? No, absolutely not, he replied quickly. We want to protect you. We need you to be okay. Take a few days, get yourself together. And know that no one here judges you for anything. We understand exactly what is happening. I accepted without much resistance. Maybe that's exactly what I needed right now, space to breathe and process everything. That afternoon, Bryce showed up again with his laptop and a worried expression. Silas, I have something you might need to see. Any more surprise debts? Not exactly. An online profile of Ryan. He has a YouTube channel, small but active. He's trying to market himself as a personal success coach. And do you know how he sells his image? I can't even imagine. Saying that he is an independent entrepreneur, owner of a private investment network. In some videos, he even mentions that you are his partner, saying that together you have a very successful family business. I laughed in disbelief. He actually created an entire fiction around my name. Yes, and the worst thing is, that there are people who believe it. The videos have comments congratulating him on his success. Many young people believing he is an inspiration, Silas. The feeling was one of deep nausea. It was like seeing your own identity kidnapped and used as counterfeit currency to build the fame of someone unscrupulous. That night, I received another unexpected call, this time from an unknown number. I answered without thinking much. "Silas? It's Richard, your father." My heart stopped for a moment. "Father? You can't call me. There's a court order." "I know, but I need to talk to you directly, son. Tomorrow we will testify." "Your mother can't handle it. She's taking heavy medication to sleep. Ryan has been missing since yesterday. I don't know what to do." I took a deep breath. His voice, which had once been steady, was weak and broken. It was strange to hear, almost unrecognizable. "What do you expect from me now, Father? May you take all of this away." "We can negotiate among ourselves, Silas. Keep it out of the courts. Father, you forged my signature. They made me pay debts that were never mine. They used my identity, destroyed my credit, ended my dreams. How do you expect me to just forget? Because we are family. Family forgives. Family doesn't cheat. You are criminals, Father. You planned every detail of this for years. I'm not the one who needs to forgive. It is justice that needs to act now. Silas, please." "Good luck tomorrow on the stand, Dad." I hung up the phone with shaking hands. That call had moved me deeply. It was impossible not to feel guilty, even though you knew rationally that you were doing the right thing. Bryce noticed and placed a hand on my shoulder, sympathetic. "Don't blame yourself for feeling sorry, but don't give in because of her either. You are sure. You did not create this chaos, you're just exposing him." That night, as silence took over the apartment, I finally felt the tears I had been holding back for days. They were not out of sadness at losing them. They were for me, for all the years that I allowed myself to believe in a family that, in truth, had never existed as I imagined. The next morning, I woke up to a direct message from Detective Marcia. "Your parents and brother have just arrived to give an official statement. Things are going to get difficult from now on, but we are by your side." I took a deep breath. There was no going back now, just the certainty that it needed to happen. The next few weeks became a sequence of revelations and public exposures that were difficult to bear. The investigation was now being followed by local newspapers and news websites, particularly after details were leaked about the extent of the fraud committed by my parents and Ryan. It was inevitable. The story of a seemingly ordinary family involved in such a profound scandal generated constant attention. The preliminary hearing was quickly scheduled. Hannah prepared me in detail about what my testimony would be like and what types of questions we would face. It would not be a simple trial. They were being formally charged with crimes that could result in severe penalties. Document forgery, financial fraud, identity abuse, and embezzlement were just some of the more serious allegations. The day before the hearing, I received a message on my cell phone from an unidentified number with a short video attached. When I opened it, my heart accelerated. It was Ryan, sitting in an unfamiliar room, his face pale and haggard. He spoke directly to the camera, with red eyes and a shaky voice. "Silas, it's me, your brother. I know you don't want to hear from me anymore, but I needed to try. Tomorrow at the hearing, I will confess everything. Everything, really. It's my fault. I convinced our parents that it wasn't serious, that you wouldn't even notice. They only accepted because they believed in me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please spare our parents. Don't finish them off because of me. I didn't know it would get this far. It was selfish of me, I admit. I'm ready to face everything alone, but I beg you, Silas, don't let this completely destroy our family." Watching the video shook me more deeply than I imagined. It was difficult to see my brother, who always escaped consequences, directly admit guilt. I sent the video to Hannah immediately, and she quickly responded, "This seems like an attempt to take all the blame to spare your parents. It's not uncommon in family cases. But let's stick with the original plan. Justice will decide responsibilities." The next day, when I entered the courtroom, my heart was beating so hard that I could feel every beat echoing in my ears. My parents were sitting opposite, both looking years older than they actually were. Ryan was next to them, avoiding eye contact with me. When the judge announced the start of proceedings, the tension was palpable. We are here today to review the formal charges against Richard Moreau, Lucille Moreau, and Ryan Moreau, including multiple counts of financial fraud, forged signatures, and crimes related to the identity of Silas Moreau, present here as the primary victim. My lawyer began with a clear statement detailing every aspect of the frauds and showing the evidence collected by the police. Then it was the defense's turn, whose main argument was what I expected, trying to place full responsibility on Ryan, while my parents claimed ignorance of the financial details. But when it came time for Ryan's testimony, something unexpected happened. Unlike what he had said in the video, his posture changed completely in front of the judge. "Your Honor, I recognize that I made a mistake, but I didn't do any of this alone. Yes, I suggested things, but my parents not only knew, they collaborated at every step. My mother helped me prepare documents. My father advised me several times on how to prevent Silas from noticing. We all knew exactly what we were doing." Hearing those words coming directly from him generated an immediate reaction in the room. My parents looked at Ryan in shock, while the prosecutor took the opportunity to reinforce the charges. The judge called for order, quickly regaining control of the situation, and then called me to testify. I walked to the witness chair with shaky legs, but determined. When asked by the prosecutor how I discovered the frauds, I told the whole story clearly. But the question that moved me came directly from the judge. "Mr. Moreau, how do you feel today, knowing that you are here accusing members of your own family?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of that question. "Your Honor, I'm not accusing my family. I'm just telling the truth about people who took advantage of the fact that they were my family to commit crimes against me. My financial life was destroyed, my personal plans were ruined, but the worst thing is not the money or the counterfeiting. It's a breach of trust, emotional betrayal. They not only used my name and money, but they used my love for them against me. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here for justice. Because family is not just a name or a surname. Family are people who protect each other, not exploit each other." The room was completely silent. My parents lowered their heads. Ryan stared at the floor. The judge nodded, satisfied with my answer, and ended my participation. When I left the hearing, I felt exhausted, but relieved. Hannah squeezed my shoulder, giving me silent support. Bryce was waiting for me at the door with a proud smile. "You were incredible in there." Said everything that needed to be said. That night, alone at home, I realized that for the first time in months, I didn't feel angry or afraid. I just felt peace. A sad but true peace. I knew I did what needed to be done. Later, my phone rang again. It was Marcia. "Silas, I need to update you." After his testimony, the prosecution is convinced that there will be a conviction. His parents requested a plea deal in exchange for lesser sentences. Ryan seems determined to see the process through to the end. "How are you?" "I am fine. Relieved, perhaps. Thank you, Marcia, for everything. I thank you for being so brave. Many cases like this do not progress due to fear or shame on the part of the victim. You were different, Silas. This will make all the difference in the future." I hung up feeling like something in me had finally completely transformed. I was no longer a victim. Now, I was simply me, Silas Moreau, someone who had weathered the storm and was finally starting to feel the sun again. After the hearing, the days slowly began to take on a different shape. I had taken 2 weeks off from the hospital and decided to use that time to reorganize my life. My mind needed to digest everything that happened. It wasn't just the legal issue, it was my identity, my perception of family, my future. Bryce showed up almost daily, bringing food, laughter, and normalcy. Hannah remained in constant contact, updating on each progress in the process. It was in one of these conversations, about 10 days after the testimony, that she brought me something new that I hadn't expected so soon. "Silas, the judge has already accepted the request to block the assets of your parents and brother. Furthermore, banks have finally recognized that you have no responsibility for loans made without your knowledge. Your credit is officially being restored. Those words brought indescribable relief. It wasn't just about money or credit, but about real, tangible justice happening. My life was finally beginning to return to a livable rhythm. A few days later, I received news that Ryan had been formally charged by the district attorney's office with additional crimes related to the fraud. My parents accepted a plea deal. They partially confessed to the charges, admitting limited participation in exchange for reduced sentences. They would probably not face prison, but they would receive severe fines, probation, and a conviction that would be permanently recorded. As for Ryan, the prosecutor ruled that he would face full trial, given the magnitude of the fraud and the central role he played. Upon receiving this news, I felt no happiness or satisfaction, just the sad, bitter feeling that all of this could have been avoided if my family had chosen honesty instead of opportunism. One day, while taking a walk in the park near my house, I received another unexpected call. It was a different number, and when I answered, a familiar voice said carefully, "Hi, Silas, it's Mom." My heart pounded, but I remained calm. "You shouldn't be calling me Mom." "I know, but the lawyer said that if you agreed to talk to me, there would be no problem." "Silas, I needed to hear your voice. I needed to apologize directly." I took a deep breath. "Why? Why are you sorry, or because you now know the consequences?" "Both. Son, we made horrible mistakes. I feel embarrassed every day. We ended everything. With your trust, with your love. The family is over. This hurts more than any sentence." "I know, Mom, but it's not over now. It ended when you decided that money was more important than respect, than honesty, than me." She was quiet for a long moment before saying in a choked voice, "You are sure? I just wanted you to know that we never stopped loving you." Love without respect is not love, Mother. It's control. And I finally understood it. I hung up after a brief but final goodbye. He knew that that call was not only sincere regret, but also an attempt to calm his own conscience. Over the next few days, I focused on something I had put off for years due to my unstable financial situation caused by my family's fraud, buying my own house. Hannah and Bryce helped me organize everything, and I soon found a small but cozy house in a quiet neighborhood in Sacramento. The day I signed the contract was the first day I allowed myself to truly celebrate, feeling pure and genuine joy. The first night in my new house, as I unpacked some boxes, I realized that life really was changing for the better. My phone rang again. This time, it wasn't my mom or dad, it was Ryan. I answered with hesitation. "Silas, it's me. I needed to hear you. I know I don't deserve it, but I needed to try one last time." "Ryan, there's nothing more we can say to each other right now." "Maybe it doesn't, but I just wanted to say one thing. I envied you my whole life. His ability to be responsible, organized, successful in everything he did. I wanted to be like you, but instead I ended up becoming everything you would never be. I'm sorry for ruining everything between us." The honesty in his voice was painful. "I hope you really become someone better, Ryan, not for me, but for you." I hung up with a heavy heart, but also with a clear sense of closure. One stage completed once and for all. The following week, when I returned to the hospital, I was greeted with sincere smiles from colleagues and patients. My routine began to fall into place again, and I increasingly felt like my life truly belonged to me. Later that month, at dinner at my new house with Hannah and Bryce, I realized something important. I wasn't alone. Maybe my biological family had failed me, but I had built a new family around me. People who respected me, who believed in me, and who helped me get back on my feet. That night, sitting on the porch under a starry sky, I realized I was finally free. There were no more bills to pay for mistakes that weren't mine, no more obligations imposed by the weight of guilt. Now there was just me, Silas Moreau, with a new life ahead of me, with new stories to build. It was time to move on, and I was ready for it. In the following months, my life took on new colors. The new house became a true home, a space where I felt safe, free, and at peace. I took up old hobbies forgotten due to constant worries, like running in the morning and cooking for friends on the weekend. It was a liberating feeling to discover that I could be happy for myself, without carrying the weight of other people's expectations or mistakes. During this period, I remotely followed the progress of the case against Ryan and my parents. Ryan was sentenced to serve a semi-open sentence, in addition to paying a considerable fine for the crimes committed. My parents would serve a restrictive sentence, with strict financial obligations and supervised release, for 3 years. The judge made it clear that if they violated any term, arrest would be inevitable. I didn't celebrate these punishments. There was no joy in seeing my own family being penalized in this way, but I felt that justice had finally done its job, correcting something deeply wrong. This feeling of justice was enough to make me move forward more calmly. One day, I received an unexpected invitation. Bryce had organized a small party at his house, inviting some of his closest friends, including Hannah. It was a symbolic celebration, as he himself described in the invitation sent by message, to celebrate the new phase in the life of our great friend Silas, because life deserves to be celebrated, especially after the storms. When I arrived at the party, I felt welcomed like few times in my life. The atmosphere was happy, relaxed, full of people who truly cared about me. Hannah brought a bottle of champagne especially to toast my new beginning. At one point, she raised her glass and asked for the attention of those present. "Guys, I want to make a very special toast today, for Silas. Many here have closely followed everything he has faced in recent months. It was a difficult, painful journey, but also one of growth. I want to toast his courage, his strength of character, and above all, his incredible ability to transform pain into learning. May your life be light, Silas. You deserve." Everyone raised their glasses, and I felt discreet tears form as I shyly thanked them. It was one of the most special moments of my life, because it was sincere, true, and completely free from the constraints of the past. Later that same evening, Bryce sat next to me on the porch, enjoying the cool breeze. "How do you feel now, man, after everything?" I took a deep breath, smelling the light aroma of the garden around me. "I feel whole, Bryce. I'm not going to say that everything is completely gone, but I finally feel like I'm myself again, and that is priceless." He smiled, pleased, and patted my shoulder. "You deserve every minute of this new life." In the following months, I decided to share my story, initially in small support groups and later through social media, in short, emotional videos. To my surprise, stories started coming in from everywhere. People who had been through something similar, who were carrying family burdens, financial and emotional trauma, began to contact me, sharing their own journeys. I realized that my experience had a greater purpose: to encourage people to seek help, break abusive cycles, and prioritize their own emotional and financial health. Little by little, that initial pain turned into purpose, and I clearly understood that my experience could be used to help many others. It was then that I decided to make this video, where I share with you, with sincerity and affection, everything I learned about family relationships, personal limits, emotional and financial health, and above all, about the power of personal overcoming. If you've made it this far and are following this story, I want to deeply thank you for dedicating your precious time to listening to my story. Believe each of us can find the strength to overcome difficult situations as long as we have the support and courage to take the first step. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel here, because together we can create a community of mutual support where no one needs to face their difficulties alone. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, have you been through something similar in your life? Or do you know someone who has experienced a similar story? Let's make comments a welcoming and safe space for everyone to share their experiences and feelings. Your story matters, and it can help many other people. Thanks again for being here, for listening, for sharing, and for being part of this journey with me. Always remember, it's never too late to start over, to establish healthy limits, and to build a life that truly makes sense for you.